All right, get ready, because today we're going to be diving deep into this book that's really got me thinking differently about my health. It's called Good Energy
Oh, yeah.
by Dr. Casey Means.
I've heard of it.
Have you heard of it?
Yeah, it's a really interesting read. When you have a surgeon who decides to kind of like shift gears and focus on the root causes of chronic illness, it really makes you stop and pay attention.
Exactly. And that's what hooked me from the start. I mean, think about it. Dr. Means was in the middle of her surgical residency.
Wow.
She was almost done. But she realized that something was missing from the way that we approach health.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that something is what she calls good energy. But it's not just about, like feeling peppy and ready to take on the day.
Right.
It's really about how efficiently our cells are actually creating and using energy.
So it's like our own personal energy crisis, but at a microscopic level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she argues that this bad energy at the cellular level is actually like a driving force behind the explosion of chronic illnesses that we're seeing. Think about it.
Yeah.
6 out of 10 adults
It's crazy.
have a chronic illness. That's a huge number.
The staggering number.
It's scary, right? And life expectancy is actually declining.
I know.
Even with all of the medical advancements that we have.
Yeah,
It makes you wonder if we're missing something really fundamental.
for sure. And Dr. Means doesn't shy away from that question at all. One of the things that I think really makes Good Energy stand out is she kind of weaves in these patient stories throughout the book.
Oh, yeah.
And they're so powerful.
They are really powerful. Like Sophia, the patient who was struggling with these chronic sinus infections, Dr. Means actually performed her surgery, but even after that, Sophia's health was all over the place.
Wow.
Her blood sugar, her blood pressure, everything's like nobody was really connecting the dots.
Right. And think about that, nagging fatigue that maybe you've been dealing with.
Oh, yeah. Could it be tied to something deeper, like Sophia's case? That's what Dr. Means really wants us to consider, that these seemingly unrelated symptoms could actually be pointing to a root cause.
Okay, so what are some of the things that contribute to this bad energy? I know that the book lists like 10 different factors, and it's kind of like a who's who of modern life stressors, diet, lack of sleep, stress, all the things that we love to complain about.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so relatable, right?
Yeah.
She's not talking about some obscure medical mystery.
Right,
She's
yeah.
talking about the stuff that we're all dealing with like on a daily basis.
Totally.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Dr. Means argues that it's not just those factors themselves,
Okay.
but how they impact the functioning of our mitochondria, those tiny powerhouses in our cells.
Wait, so you're saying that it's not enough to just like eat healthy and get some sleep?
It's more than that.
We actually have to understand how those choices are affecting our cells at a microscopic level.
That's exactly what Dr. Means is getting at. And it's a pretty radical shift from the way that we traditionally think about health. Instead of focusing on, calories in, calories out,
Right.
she's saying that we need to really pay attention to how those calories are actually being converted into energy.
So it's like food is information for our cells,
Yes.
not just fuel.
Exactly.
And-
And the type of information that we're feeding them can have a huge impact on how efficiently they actually function.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What really blew my mind was when Dr. Means started connecting bad energy to conditions that you wouldn't necessarily think were related, like acne.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, most people just think of that as like a teenage problem.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But she's suggesting that it could be linked to a deeper metabolic dysfunction.
Right. And she talks about how our skin is often a reflection of what's actually happening inside our bodies.
Yeah.
Like those breakouts could actually be our cells trying to signal that something's out of whack.
That's wild.
Yeah.
And she doesn't stop there. She also talks about hearing loss and how insulin resistance might be playing a role, especially as we age. And then there's infertility.
Yeah. And what's fascinating is that she ties all of these seemingly unrelated conditions back to the same underlying principle.
Boy.
That bad energy at the cellular level can have like a cascade of effects throughout the whole body.
It makes you wonder how many health issues we're struggling with that could actually be traced back to this same root cause.
Right.
And what's even more intriguing is that she talks about how the current medical system isn't always equipped to address these issues.
Right. She's pretty critical of the focus on treating symptoms rather than preventing them in the first place.
But isn't some level of stress good for us? Like, how do we know when it's tipping into bad energy territory?
That's a great question. It's one that Dr. Means explores in detail, and she uses the example of her mother's battle with pancreatic cancer, which is a really poignant example. The pressure to pursue aggressive treatments, even when the odds weren't good, really made her question the conventional approach to healthcare.
Okay, so we've talked about all the things that can contribute to this bad energy, but what about solutions? Does she offer a way out of this cellular energy crisis?
She does, and that's what we'll dive into next. But let's just say it involves more than just popping a pill or following the latest fad diet.
I'm intrigued. This is definitely making me want to pick up the book and get the full story.
I think you'll be glad you did. It's full of surprises and really makes you rethink everything you thought you knew about health. So are you ready to hear about Dr. Mean's Good Energy Toolbox?
I am. I'm all ears.
All right.
But before we get into that, there was one part of the book that really stuck with me, and it was when Dr. Means talked about how this bad energy crisis is affecting kids too,
Oh, yeah.
which is pretty alarming.
Yeah, absolutely. We often associate chronic illness with aging,
Right.
but, she paints a really stark picture of the trends that we're seeing even in children. Childhood obesity, fatty liver disease, even in young kids. It's a real wake-up call that something's not right.
Right. And she talks about how these seemingly minor symptoms in kids
Right.
could be early warning signs
Yeah.
of something bigger.
Totally.
It makes you wonder if we're normalizing dysfunction without even realizing it.
It's a sobering thought for sure. And it makes Dr. Mean's approach to restoring good energy even more crucial, not just for ourselves, but for future generations as well.
Okay, so let's get into this good energy toolbox.
Okay.
What are some of the key areas that she focuses on?
Well, diet plays a huge role,
Of course.
but she goes beyond just telling you what to eat.
Okay.
She really dives into the why behind it, explaining how different foods impact our cells at a molecular level.
Mhm.
Remember that idea of food as molecular information?
Right. Like how that greasy burger and fries combo is sending a totally different message to your cells than like a plate of salmon and veggies.
Exactly. It's not just about calories. It's really about the quality of the fuel that you're giving your body. And she really emphasizes eating whole, unprocessed foods,
Yeah.
things that our bodies are designed to recognize and use efficiently.
So it's about getting back to basics, ditching the processed stuff, and nourishing our bodies with real food.
That's a big part of it. And she goes deep into the science of how different nutrients impact our cells, like the importance of protein for building and repairing tissues, and healthy fats for hormone production and brain function.
That makes sense. But honestly, I've heard that advice before. Like, what makes Dr. Means' approach different?
It's the depth of her knowledge and how she connects seemingly disparate pieces of the puzzle.
Right.
For example, she dives deep into the world of fats, explaining the differences between omega-3s and omega-6s, and how the ratio of these fats in our diet can significantly impact inflammation in the body.
Oh, that's right. I remember reading that part. It was fascinating. Like a whole new world of nutrition I'd never considered before.
Exactly. And it's not just what we eat, it's also when we eat. She talks about time-restricted feeding, giving your body a break from digestion to really focus on cellular repair and energy production.
You mean like intermittent fasting?
It's similar,
Okay.
but she emphasizes aligning it with your natural circadian rhythms for optimal results.
Gotcha.
And speaking of circadian rhythms,
Sleep.
that's another key pillar in the good energy toolbox.
I knew it was coming, but I'm curious to hear what Dr. Means has to say about it because let's face it, most of us are running on fumes these days.
Right, but she really drives home the point that sleep is not a luxury.
Yeah.
It's essential for our cells to actually recharge and repair themselves, and it goes beyond just getting enough hours. She delves into the science of sleep cycles and how modern life can disrupt our natural rhythms.
Wait, so you're telling me that my late night Netflix binges could be messing with my sleep hormones?
That's exactly what she's saying. Exposure to artificial light at night, especially from our devices, can suppress melatonin production, which is crucial for regulating our sleep-wake cycles.
Okay, that's a tough pill to swallow, but we get it. So it's not just about getting enough sleep, it's about getting the right kind of sleep at the right time.
You got it. And she also emphasizes the importance of consistency.
Okay.
Going to bed and waking up around the same time each day, even on weekends, helps to keep those circadian rhythms in sync.
All right. I'm sensing a theme here. It's not just about doing the things, it's about understanding the why behind them and aligning them with our body's natural rhythms. What's next?
Well, we can't forget about movement.
Right.
But she doesn't buy into the no pain, no gain mentality.
Yeah.
Instead, she focuses on incorporating movement throughout the day, kind of mimicking how our ancestors moved.
So more walking, less sitting.
Exactly. She talks about the dangers of being sedentary for long periods and how even small bursts of activity can make a difference. Taking the stairs, walking during phone calls, even just standing up and stretching regularly.
It's about making movement a natural part of our lives, not just something we force ourselves to do.
Right.
I like that.
And she also explores different types of movement, like strength training and high-intensity interval training for boosting metabolism and building muscle. But again, it's about finding what works for you and incorporating it into your life in a sustainable way.
This is starting to sound like a complete lifestyle overhaul.
It is, in a way.
Wow.
But it's not about deprivation or following a rigid set of rules.
Okay.
It's about making choices that support your body's natural ability to thrive.
Mm.
And that brings us to the final piece of the Good Energy Toolbox, stress management.
Okay, this is a big one for me. I feel like stress is a constant companion these days. How does Dr. Means approach it?
Well, she acknowledges that stress is inevitable,
Right.
but she focuses on building resilience, the ability to bounce back from challenges without letting them overwhelm you.
So it's not about eliminating stress entirely, it's about changing how we respond to it.
Exactly. And she offers a wide range of strategies for doing this, from mindfulness techniques to cultivating a sense of purpose to spending time in nature.
I love that she emphasizes connecting with nature.
Yeah.
That's something I find incredibly restorative.
Me too.
But sometimes it feels like I don't even have time to breathe, let alone get out in nature.
I hear you, but that's why it's so important to prioritize these things.
Yeah.
Dr. Means talks about how even short bursts of nature exposure can have a profound impact on our stress levels and overall well-being.
Okay, I'm willing to give it a try.
Good.
So we've covered diet, sleep, movement, and stress management. It's a holistic approach, which makes sense since all these things are interconnected.
It is, and what's really empowering about Dr. Means's approach is that she doesn't present it as a one-size-fits-all solution.
Right.
She encourages readers to really experiment and find what works for them.
That's refreshing. So it's not about achieving some unattainable level of perfection. It's about making small, sustainable changes that add up over time.
Exactly, and it's about listening to your body and trusting its wisdom.
I'm definitely intrigued by this Good Energy Toolbox and how it all fits together, but I have to ask, does she address the financial incentives within healthcare that might discourage a focus on lifestyle and preventative measures? We touched on that earlier, and it's something I'm really curious about.
She does, and it's a really thought-provoking part of the book.
Okay.
But you know what? Why don't we save that conversation for the next segment? I think it deserves its own space to breathe.
You're right. It's a big topic. All right, we'll leave our listeners hanging on that cliffhanger.
Yes.
I'll have to tune in next time to hear our take on that piece of the puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
So before we went to the next part, we were talking about this idea of, the financial side of healthcare
Yeah, it's a big one.
and how it all kind of plays in.
Yeah, a really important conversation to have, and one that Dr. Means definitely doesn't shy away from in Good Energy.
Yeah. She brings up her own mother's experience with pancreatic cancer and how the focus just seemed to be on aggressive treatments, even when the odds weren't great.
Right.
And it makes you think about, the financial incentives that might be at play there.
Yeah, she raises some really thought-provoking questions about the current healthcare system and whether it truly prioritizes prevention and addressing root causes.
Right.
If doctors aren't always incentivized to spend the time on these lifestyle interventions,
Right.
where does that leave us as patients?
That's exactly what I was wondering. If we're waiting for the system to change, we might be waiting a long time.
Yeah, exactly.
So what does Dr. Means suggest we do?
Well, she encourages us to become informed advocates for our own health,
Okay.
to educate ourselves, ask questions, and not be afraid to challenge conventional thinking. It's about taking ownership of our health journey and not simply being passive recipients of care.
I love that. Becoming an informed advocate, that's so empowering.
It is.
But it can also feel overwhelming.
Right.
Where do we even start?
Well, Dr. Means suggests that we start with awareness.
Okay.
She encourages readers to really tune in to their bodies,
Yeah.
to notice how they feel after eating certain foods, how their energy levels fluctuate throughout the day, how stress manifests in their physical body.
So it's like becoming a detective of your own health.
Yeah, right.
Looking for clues and connecting the dots.
Yeah. And the more you pay attention, the more you'll start to see those patterns.
Right.
You'll realize which foods give you sustained energy and which ones make you crash. You'll discover the power of movement to kind of shift your energy and clear your mind. You'll learn how to prioritize sleep and manage stress in ways that work for you.
It's like she's giving us the tools to decode our own body's language.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And from there, you can start experimenting with the strategies that she outlines in Good Energy, making gradual changes to your diet, incorporating more movement into your day, prioritizing sleep, finding ways to manage stress.
And remembering that it's not about being perfect, it's about making progress.
Exactly. It's a journey, not a destination.
Yeah.
And the more you learn about your body, the more empowered you become to make choices that support your overall well-being.
Reading Good Energy has definitely gotten me thinking about my health in a whole new way. I've been so focused on external things like how I look or how much I weigh that I've neglected to pay attention to what's going on inside,
Yeah,
you know?
I think that's a really common experience. We're just bombarded with messages about how we should look and what we should eat.
Yeah.
But we're not always given the tools to understand how those choices impact our health at a cellular level. And I think good energy really provides that deeper understanding.
It's like we've been looking at the map but not really understanding the terrain. And once you understand the terrain, you
Yeah.
can navigate it more effectively, right?
Exactly. And that's what makes this book so powerful. It gives you that deeper understanding and empowers you to make more informed choices.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty inspired to cultivate more good energy in my own life.
Yeah.
What would you say is the most important takeaway for our listeners?
I think the biggest takeaway is that we have more control over our health than we often realize.
Yeah.
Good energy isn't just some elusive state.
Right.
It's something that we can cultivate through conscious choices and lifestyle changes.
It's about understanding how our bodies work at a fundamental level
Okay.
and making choices that support that optimal function physically, mentally, and emotionally.
Right. And it's about questioning the status quo and taking an active role in our own health journey.
Absolutely. If this deep dive sparked your curiosity, we encourage you to seek out the book itself.
Yes.
You'll find all the details, the nuances, the full good energy plan all waiting for you there.
And as you embark on this journey of optimizing your cellular energy, we'll leave you with this final question.
Okay.
What would become possible in your life if you were operating at your full potential, physically, mentally, and emotionally?
Something to ponder, folks. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep seeking knowledge.